Have you ever wondered where your local pub name came from? Many pub names came from folklore, heraldry, history, and local customs. An inn traditionally provided accommodation, stabling, food, and drink. Coaching inns were regular stops of stagecoaches carrying passengers and mail to major cities and towns. These can be identified by their names, such as the Coach and Horses, or Horse and Groom, or the Wagon and Horses. Many would have courtyards of cobbled stone and stables behind the inn, and would also have a high gateway for the coaches to pass through, with feeding troughs and mounting blocks inside. The first known markers of pubs were used in the Roman times, a pole hung with vine and ivy leaves outside the drinking house. This tradition carried on after the Romans left. In medieval times, a horizontal ale stake would be hung with an ivy garland or bush at the end to indicate fresh beer was for sale. Painted board signs were used from medieval times. In 1393, a law was passed stating that if no sign was hung, the owner would have to forfeit their beer. Pictorial signs were important as many people were unable to read, so symbols like a star or bull's head were easy to recognise. Many pubs have changed their names multiple times, reflecting changes in politics, patronage, or even ownership. An example of this would be the Rising Sun, which was the badge of Edward III. Other pubs retain historical links, like the Fox and Hounds or the Horse and Hounds, which were meeting places for the local hunt. Inns on old drovers' routes would have been likely called the Drovers. Later in the 19th century, lots of railway pub names appeared, especially near stations, and the names of train engines were used on the pub signs, i.e. engine and tender, the railway inn, and also the locomotive. Common pub names would include the Red Lion, the Golden Lion, the Black Lion, the White Lion. These would reflect heraldry of local or national patrons. The Red Lion being the most common of all, attributed to the 14th century noble John of Gaunt, or even to King James I, who allegedly demanded that all public buildings displayed the Red Lion to show allegiance to the king. And on that note, another pub name would be the Crown, a simple symbol to remember. It was popular and also showed allegiance to the monarch. Animals such as deers, swans, dogs, ducks, bulls, foxes and horses often feature on pub signs. An example is the White Hart, a rare pale male red deer. It was a heraldic badge of Richard II and was depicted with a chain and golden collar or a crown on its neck. Another very popular pub name was called the King's Head. Many pubs changed their names through history, particularly following Henry VIII's split with the Catholic Church and the decades of anti-Catholic sentiment that followed. The Pope's Head pubs were frequently renamed the King's Head, a safer declaration of allegiance. The Lamb and the Mitre pub names, both suggesting Catholic connections, have survived much better. These are but a few references to the many pub names that we have had through the ages, all adding to our history and culture, which is now sadly fading fast. In my own opinion, keeping pubs alive is a vital part of our community and a place where stories can be told and new friends can be made. It's part of our history, and hopefully with a video like this, at least their pub names and their origins will never be forgotten.